Coming up in the WGNO Sports Zone, as Saints training camp ramps up, so does the quarterback competition.
Our quarterbacks just operated at a really high level, communicated, they pushed the tempo, so it felt good.
A closer look at what each QB has brought to the table so far. Plus, Louisiana legend Tyrann Mathieu announces his retirement.
He played every practice like it was the Super Bowl.
His high school head coach weighs in on the legacy the Honey Badger left on and off the field. And Tulane gets a huge boost in the QB room with the addition of BYU quarterback Jake Retzloff.
We have an opportunity to add a capable player that can help us win. We're going to do it.
The sports team breaks down how this move impacts the Green Wave's 2025 chances. All that and much more right now in the WGNO Sports Zone. Welcome into the WGNO Sports Zone. I'm Jared Paul Joseph, welcomed with the one and only Megan Glover. Sports director Richie Mills, not in studio, but he will have a couple of appearances in the show. We are currently dry and hydrated following a very sweaty week of Saints training camp. Megan, how you feeling?
Well, I was just getting back after vacation, and I was welcomed back with the humidity that's here in New Orleans. I mean, it's nothing surprising, but a busy day with Saints training camp.
1,000%. A little bit of a busy day and a wet one, too. Had a little bit of a sprinkles, but again, the Saints do wrap up day 3 of training camp Friday morning, and the quarterback competition has gotten more interesting. Quarterback Jake Haener takes first-team reps on day 3. And Haener, alongside Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough, have been flashing with each QB running reps with the starting unit. Friday, also the first time all QBs take and complete multiple deep shots. However, while the competition remains a 3-man race, the QB battle will shrink to a 2-man situation after the preseason opener. Head coach Kellen Moore, though, has been pleased with what each QB has shown early on.
Yeah, Jake did a nice job. I think it's important for all those guys to get different exposures and be around different players in different settings and situations. And so I feel like all those guys responded. I thought this was our cleanest operating practice, which certainly you expect being the third day. But I thought our quarterbacks just operated at a really high level, communicated, they pushed the tempo, so it felt good.
Now, obviously, Megan, the way that this is right now, it's a 2-man race in a lot of the public's eyes with Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler. And, of course, they do have Jake Haener, kind of the dark horse third person in it. What are your early impressions so far of what they've been doing in training camp?
Well, as you said, I know y'all have had more of a front seat because I've been out for some time. But I know that looking at it today, like we mentioned earlier, Jake Haener had a lot of those 1 reps today. But was something that head coach Kellen Moore and even Justin Reed told us earlier was that this was the cleanest operating day for the quarterback competition. And as you mentioned just a second ago, you saw some deep shots there. You saw more completions. You saw maybe a little more angst to maybe what y'all have seen in the first 2 days of training camp. So the competition is heating up. But like you said, yes, Haener is probably that dark horse as opposed to a 2-man competition that's expected at this time.
1,000%. And I think Haener is really just fighting to keep himself in it. You saw some of what Spencer and what Shough have been able to do so far, taking those deep shots, being able to be creative with it. Haener getting the benefit of having the chance to have his time with the first team. When they do take some of the deep shots, Thursday's practice was a lot more red zone. One of the highlights of that day was seeing how Spencer Rattler was able to bounce back from his own mistakes. Rattler throwing the first interception of any quarterback throughout training camp, but then he bounces back and then he runs in his own touchdown. So you see a little bit of how they're able to, orchestrate themselves, conduct themselves in this new offense. And Megan, honestly, with the way things are going, it really will come down to that first preseason game.
Absolutely. And it's such an interesting situation because, of course, this is fresh for everybody. This whole entire Saints organization, but of course the offense specifically is trying to navigate what this new offense will look like. We mentioned tempo a minute ago, and something that head coach Kellen Moore said earlier was that this team has looked at the tempo and the paces between the Thunder and the Indiana Pacers of this past championship run that they went on. So that's pretty interesting to see something like that maybe correlate on what he would like to see the Saints offense do in this upcoming season.
I do not want to be shooting a game with the pace of the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, but 1,000% will be very interesting to see how they develop this new offense under Kellen Moore as training camp progresses. Guests of the WGNO Sports Zone eat at That's Amari's Pizzeria, West Metairie in Clearview, now open for lunch Tuesday through Thursday, Sunday at 11 a.m. Seafood, salad, pasta, and the best pizza in town. Try the deep dish Chicago style. That's Amari's Pizzeria. The food is terrific, and customers truly are treated like family. The Honey Badger has walked away. Tyrann Mathieu is retiring after a decorated 12-year career in the National Football League, including 4 All-Pro honors, 3 Pro Bowl selections, and a Super Bowl 54 title. The former St. Aug and LSU star spent the last 3 seasons back with his hometown team. Mathieu has been one of the most reliable players in the black and gold secondary, playing every single regular season game, 51 in total for the Saints.
Really appreciate his time with us. He was fantastic, and what a great career, and just wish him all the best.
You know, phenomenal person, great character. You know, you can tell that he cares about his teammates. He cares about the younger guys, raising those guys up, and so yeah, obviously he had a huge impact on this place.
A huge impact not only for the black and gold, but for the entire state of Louisiana. Megan, when you think about Tyrann Mathieu, what do you think first?
What an incredible figure. I mean, when you look at what he's done, not just on the field, but for what he's done in his hometown, in the community, and for the game of football, you know, from his stretches of teams that he played for, Tyrann Mathieu is definitely a household name. And I mean, he's going to be, his game and his effort just lives on forever. And I want to touch on what you heard Mickey Loomis and how you heard Kellen Moore talk about him. You can hear that emotional grab or that tone that they know they're going to miss him.
1,000%. I can't think of Louisiana football without Tyrann Mathieu. You're talking about somebody who lived the life that any football player from the state wants to live. You play for a Catholic League dominant school at St. Aug. You play for LSU. You wear number 7, one of the best, if not the best player on the team, and then you go on to the NFL, play more than a decade, and end up winning a Super Bowl and coming back to the hometown as well. I think one of the best things also is his ability to grow from the boy he was to the young man he is now. And so just to see who Tyrann Mathieu is, from where he had to go through and what he had to elevate from, it's really been a pleasing situation to see.
And this is no assumption. Tyrann is going to be around. We'll still see him in the Dome. We might see him on some sidelines. Now, that is an assumption for me, but he'll be around. He's not going anywhere.
Right, but one of the people who first recognized how great Mathieu would be is St. Augustine's former head football coach, David Johnson. WGNO Sports Director Richie Mills catches up with Mathieu's high school head coach to recap the Badgers' career.
So you were Tyrann Mathieu's high school football coach. Did you maybe recognize many years ago that the NFL potential that we've seen the last 12 years might be there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can recognize that early on. A lot of people obviously thought I was a little crazy being this size, stature, and different things when I first got to St. Augustine High School. But I saw it from day one. You know, Dale Lee, who actually coached him, was a DC who had been there a few years before I got to St. Augustine. He was standing on the table before I even got there, saying how great he was, his work ethic, what type of player he was. You know, and Dale Lee had been talking about him, I mean, for a long time. I was at D3, but when I got a chance to watch him practice up close and see him and understand how smart he was and how much football meant to him, you can see it. It was instant.
Kind of undersized in high school, Coach, but how was he able to make up for it?
Well, he has something totally different than everybody else. His instincts, his mentality. And at the end of the day, he played every practice like it was the Super Bowl. It didn't matter if he was playing the Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs or if he was at a camp at Southeastern. It was no change. You know, he just had a certain mentality about him that, you know, he was the best person on the field, but he worked like it. He played like it. He wanted the ball in his hands. He wanted everything. If it was on the line, he wanted to be a part of it. He wanted to be the difference maker in the game.
Could you sort of see that amplify when he stepped foot on campus at LSU? I mean, some of the things he did in his final playing year there were spectacular, to say the least. But did any of that maybe surprise you in the least bit?
It didn't surprise me at all. I have been seeing it. You know, the one year I got a chance to coach him, you could see it early on. Certain things you can go back, watch the very first game scrimmage we played against McMain. And we just need to get the ball in his hand. You know, before I got to St. Augustine, he never really had the ball in his hand. He only played DB. So once he got the ball in his hand, he was just totally different. You could see his short area quickness. And the first punt, we faked it against McMain. He went 90 yards. And there was no plan, just put it in his hand. I wish I could say it's my cone drills, but he was just better than everybody else.
Just those instinctual things that you would see from him on a football field, were those things you teach, or is that just something that naturally comes to someone like that?
No, he's just special. I wish, and a lot of coaches try to take credit for. You can't take credit for that. You know, that was in his DNA. That was in his DNA. You know, he got that from his family member, from his parents. he was just different. And our job was not to mess it up. Make sure we put the ball in his hand, put him on the field, and let him take over.
When you see all the success he had in the NFL with several different franchises, it kind of felt like no matter the stop, he was able to find success, Coach. Just having been around him those developmental years, what was that like for you to watch him accomplish all of these things?
I think it was a blessing because he's been a blessing to so many different people on his journey, so many different coaches. He made all of us look good. But just seeing that, but one thing about him, he loved football. He understood football. He wasn't just out there just kind of running around. His biggest thing was, I think his ultimate talent, was his knowledge of the game. He wanted to get better each and every day. And it showed, with a lasting career like he had in the NFL, he proved so many people wrong, and people kind of look back today and like, wow, man, it's no way I expected that. But, like I said, Dale Lee, he had been talking about this way before I got to St. Augustine High School. And Dale Lee was one of the people that kind of bonded with him early. He saw it before just about anybody else. And Tyrann just did a great job, and we're proud of him.
Having a New Orleans football background like you do, when you see a local product from the city not only be able to represent the black and gold here in New Orleans, but to retire with the New Orleans Saints, how does that make it a little bit more special having been from this city?
I think it does. You have so many kids looking up to him. Kids wanting to be in that position and understand that, they can achieve it. Having somebody come exactly from their city, being able to play in a Nord playground, go to middle school, go to high school right in their city, and actually go to college in their state. So, he did everything for a lot of people. So a lot of young people looking to understand that, they too can actually achieve that dream.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mills. We'll have more Sports Zone on the other side of the break. The Tulane quarterback room has gotten a massive boost with the addition of BYU quarterback Jake Retzloff. In May, Retzloff was accused of rape. However, the lawsuit was dismissed 1 month later. The QB was facing a 7-game suspension for violating BYU's premarital sex honor code, forcing him to withdraw from the Cougars program. Now, once head coach John Summerall got the green light following the school's investigation, he brought him on board, and Summerall and Retzloff also have history. Tulane's head coach recruited the QB during his days back at Troy. Retzloff led BYU to an 11-2 record in 2024 and accounted for 26 total touchdowns. And now he joins the Green Wave's QB room.
The old adage a lot of people like to say is less is more. I don't prescribe to that theory. I think more is more. Like, I want more good players on our team all the time. And if we have an opportunity to add a capable player that can help us win, we're going to do it. The best man's going to win the job. Nobody's been promised anything. They all, in the recruiting process, were told, you will get what you earn, and the best man will start the game. Game one, whoever that is. And if he plays well, he'll start game two. All right? And I think we proved that with our actions last year. We didn't go with the most known player or the highest recruited player. We went with the guy that we felt like could help us win.
Retzloff will compete with Brendan Sullivan, Caden Simonza, and Donovan Leary for the starting job. Now, if anyone knows what it takes to be a successful Tulane quarterback, it is none other than Lester Ricard. The WGNO Sports analyst joins our sports director to break down Jake Retzloff's addition to the QB room.
So Tulane opens the spring with T.J. Finley, Caden Simonza, and Donovan Leary. They lose Finley, but they add Brendan Sullivan over the course of the offseason. But the big addition out of the transfer portal is BYU's Jake Retzloff. You have to love the addition for Tulane.
You talk about a guy that's been very productive in his time as a quarterback at BYU, 2,900 yards passing, a guy who's a dual threat passer. What Tulane likes to do, I think he'll fit that mold as a guy who can really get Tulane in the right plays, run the football, and then I think he'll do well when it's play action pass.
3,300 total yards of offense last year, 26 touchdowns. That's exciting given the dual threat ability, but it's the big game experience for me when you see a guy who's led teams to wins over teams like SMU, who was in the playoff last year, Kansas State and company, but you have to love the big game experience.
Yes, I mean, he's played at the highest level. We talk about how people were excited about Colorado and Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders in the Alamo Bowl, and here's this guy going in, and he goes and beats him. And basically a road game for BYU BYU and Alamo Bowl. But I tell you, one thing that Tulane is going to have to do a really good job. You get a quarterback this late into the summer, you've got to be smart about how you're giving him the offense. So what he does well and how he understands the offense, a lot of your terminology is going to have to fit what he did well at BYU. Whether if you want to call a dig a dagger and then he's used to calling it a sting route, you have to kind of match that. And the players have to get on board with that. So I think that, you know, what Tulane likes to do, running the football with the transfer portal of players that they got in there, they can start the season off just being smart, having him throw the football 15 to 20, 25 times at the most. Because really for a quarterback, everything is about game plan anyway. You don't have the offense open up to you until you get into those 2-minute situations. And I think if you can keep him in an intermediate passing game where he feels comfortable, I think as you get into later in the season, week 4, week 5, I think you'll see Tulane be able to expand their offense.
He did throw 12 interceptions last year, but he enters this fall maybe the most expensive walk-on in Tulane football history. But when you look at the quarterback room as a whole right now, I know the confidence wasn't so high coming out of spring camp, but right now the optimism is through the roof.
Yes, I mean, if you look at the guys they have at receivers, this is probably the most depth that they've had at the receiver position in a very long time. Obviously, the biggest question mark has been the offensive line, but I think if you find the right guys up front, what they like to do is run the football, pound the rock, give those backs the football. Even though you lose a guy like Mekhi Hughes, the foundation of the offense is still there. And so you got to go out and get a quarterback who's smart, doesn't really turn the football over. Yeah, he's thrown 12 interceptions last year, but I think every year as a starting quarterback, whether you're in the National Football League or whether you're in college, those interception numbers go down. And so I think it's up to Tulane. What do you want this team to look like, especially going into late in the season? If you want a chance to win the American Conference, put the ball in his hand late in the season. You've got to be smart how you handle them early in the year.
Now, we've made this mistake before. They bring in a guy like Ty Thompson. You had Kai Horton on the roster, but the third-string guy arises and becomes the highest-paid player in all of college football. Do you really see that happening again, or is Retzloff, you think, the guy immediately?
This is it, all right? You don't go get a quarterback with that type of production this time of the year and not expect to give him the ball for week 1. And I know Coach Summerall is going to say all the right things. Yeah, we're in a wide-open quarterback competition, but if they felt that comfortable about the guys that they had on the roster, they wouldn't have gone out to get a walk-on, you know, an expensive walk-on like this guy. I mean, so I'm excited with where they're going now because I think that was the biggest question mark going into this season is what is the quarterback room going to look like? Who's going to be the guy week 1? We had this question a year ago, but at least you had seen enough with Mensa doing training camp to say this guy's truly a playmaker. Kyle Horton had experience as a starting quarterback. Even Ty Thompson, you know, was a very imposing guy at the quarterback position. The other guys that they've had on the roster outside of Sullivan really hadn't had a lot of game at this level experience. And so, man, what a get for Tulane. I think everybody thought it was Christmas yesterday uptown because we were all excited.
Now, there may indeed be some uptown dancing going on right now. Megan, what do you think about the addition of this new quarterback?
You know, I got to say, like how the kids say, you saw Lester there clocking it when he said that, look, you don't go out and get a quarterback of his caliber, of his experience, if you feel as though the competition is open. I mean, of course, Summerall and company are going to say that. But, you know, like he called out the stats earlier, this is a guy that led BYU to one of their better records, 11-2, over 2,900 yards passing, 26 total touchdowns, and he can get jiggy on the ground as well with over 400 rushing yards as well. So, you know, I know Lester talked about the foundation of where Tulane's offense has been. They've been capable of running the ball, and no, they don't have Mekhi Hughes anymore, but you get a guy who has that dual threat quarterback capability, and it'll be, you know, we'll be able to see how he carries on the offense in this upcoming season.
1,000%. And I think that's the biggest thing is you see a quarterback who has the dual threat ability. The one thing that was lacking with what you saw last season was that Darian Mensah didn't run the ball nearly as much, and they would have that package going in there with Ty Thompson. Now with Jake Retzloff, you get him in there, he'll be able to do a little bit of both, and he can add duality in those +1 runs to really compromise the defense. But the biggest question now is getting him in there as QB1. Does this make Tulane a contender in the American?
Yeah, it could make them a contender. Look, I mean, Tulane has to find a way to build on the foundation that they had last season. I mean, this team was in the conversation, and then just the back end of the season, it just kind of fell off that slope. They have to be able to get back to Tulane football. And when you bring in a guy like this with that experience and with the success that he posted with BYU, they have the opportunity to not necessarily maybe run the table, but to get them back in the conversation as they should be.
1,000% that conversation, of course, being they were very close to being in the college football playoff last year. We'll see how they do it, but until then, we'll be right back after the break. Listen up, NASCAR fans. The NASCAR Xfinity Series continues at the legendary Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend. You can watch the Pennzoil 250 Saturday afternoon. Coverage starts at 3 o'clock on NOLA 38. NOLA 38 also the home of Texas Rangers baseball. Here are the next 4 games. August 8th against the Phillies. August 15th at the Blue Jays. September 5th hosting the Astros. And the final one, September 19th versus the Marlins. Nothing against my Detroit Tigers, though, so, I'm going to see how they do, Megan.
We're going to see. Look, I like to have this little running joke. I need the grandmama prayers because next week is about to get tight with us here.
Listen, we're about to have some sporting going on, but we'll give you all the coverage. Once again, thank you for stopping by. See you again for another edition of Sports Zone.